All right, guys, let's talk about real world application. Can you invoice big insurance carriers? So here's the deal, guys. We're going to keep this super high level with the exception of one portion of it, and that is the elements of a contract. Okay, so I just remember when I first got started, honestly, I was like a little bit scared. I was like, there was something in my mind that was like, wait, does a little old tree service have the ability to send in a contract and invoice to one of these huge carriers? Like they're big multi-billion dollar companies. How can a little company like mine like do that? Don't, like we people think they're like, don't I need permission? Don't I have to have some qualification? Here's the deal. No, you don't need permission. No, you don't need a qualification. You just need a contract accepted by the homeowner to perform work that you can invoice the carrier. The carrier, guys, without going too deep, a lot of times the carrier will just say, hey, we're not going to pay you. We're going to pay the homeowner, right? So at the end of the day, it kind of doesn't matter. You're kind of just presenting the invoice of cost incurred to the carrier to say, hey, this is the contract they signed. This is how much they agreed to per hour. And that's the amount, this is the amount of hours we worked. And here it is. So we're going to get into the elements of contract toward the end of this, but let's just go through the real high level process. Number one, it's not a mystery. You can do this. I'm going to teach you how in more detailed videos than this on each one of these steps. Number two, real quick, and as a side note, as always, disclaimer, none of this is legal advice, nor is it claims advice. I'm not a lawyer. I am a licensed insurance adjuster, but I'm not adjusting your claim. So this is for entertainment purposes only. Elements of a contract, we're going to skip back to that here in just a second. You need a contract. It has some elements, okay? Then you need to take the contract and present it to the person with the tree on their house. I believe, obviously, if you're here, that the best way to do that is on an online contract or on an online contract where they can see your rates and everybody else's rates. They can shop the open and free marketplace. That's what the whole idea is about. And if they choose you, we've given them a really good, easy way to understand what cranes are there in the area, what emergency services are available, how quick. And if they choose you, that means that they went to the open marketplace free with a free, unencumbered, efficient marketplace, and that market price at that time was defined by their choice, reasonable price as defined in an arm's length transaction between a buyer and seller, right? They had the ability to look at all your competitors and say, I choose you. That's why we're making this. Okay, so then you present them with your contract, has all of your hourly rates, your terms and conditions, they agree. So now you get the signed contract, you drive out there, step whatever to, like there's sales, there's a contract, there's sales, there's the sales portion of it. Then there's the production. You go out with your gear, you've already seen it online, you've kind of figured it out, you measured it on Google Maps, and now you go produce the job. That's it, pretty simple. Okay, so you go produce the job. Okay, now the important part we'll get into further later is just document lots of pictures because you're going to need to demonstrate what you did on the job site for the job. Okay, so take lots of pictures. Now, once you get done, if you're billing hourly, which you would be here, you just hit the time stop and say, hey, clock's off. You create the invoice through the invoice creation tool, and we produce an invoice for you, right? And then the final thing, you submit it to the carriers. We're going to get into all of the details of this later, like the details of who you submit it to, how you submit it, etc. That's all going to be in here. But the point is, it's that easy. Okay, so that's the entire process. I'm making this really short video just to say, you can do this. Easy. You can do it. There's no mystery. It's simple. Okay, it's really simple. It's so simple, I've done it 450 times in the last 3 years. It's super easy. I'm going to teach you how. Let's go to the next part, okay? And that is the elements of a contract. Now, again, as I'm bringing this up, obviously I'm not a lawyer. None of this is legal advice. So let's look at what the internet says about elements of a contract. I'm going to minimize this real quick. Okay, so the elements of a contract, and ultimately, I'll just preface it by saying this. The biggest thing is you have to have the price. Too many tree guys don't understand this one concept, and that is consideration. Okay, there's a few elements in here, but too many tree guys just think that in their mind, they think, oh, invoicing the carrier, I can just get a blank signature and make up a number. That's not how the courts hold things up. At the end of the day, and you got to understand this important point, the homeowner is going into contract with you for a certain set of conditions for a legal binding contract between you and them. When you do that work, they owe you the money. That's how simple it is. Okay? You say, I can do that work for this price per hour. They say, okay, do it. You guys go into contract and you go do it. Now they owe you the money. Now that creates what's called cost incurred to remove the tree. Almost all policies say something really simple. We will cover reasonable cost incurred to remove the tree. It's real simple, right? So now all of a sudden, the carrier, to bring them back to a pre-loss condition, has to pay it. So invoicing the carrier is simply demonstrating the cost incurred and showing them, and that's what Clarity Market's all about, is just illustrating this is reasonable. The cost incurred, the reasonableness of the cost incurred is defined in the open marketplace. Here's who was available, and this is why he chose them in the open, free, efficient marketplace. That's it. So let's get into the elements of the contract so you don't get stung by not having the price ahead of time. Here we go. Okay. A contract is legally binding agreement between two or more parties, okay? So you have to have an offer, okay? For there to be a contract, first there must be an offer by one party and an acceptance by the other. An offer is a definite statement of terms in an agreement, okay? So that the offer is willing to be bound by. So you're willing to be bound by it. It must be unambiguous. Okay, to illustrate the sale of a car. Okay, let's look at this. To illustrate, an offer to sell a car for $500 is an offer that, if accepted, will create a binding contract. Okay, so let's just look at this. The offerer can make the offer to an offeree. Oh, this is an invitation to treat. One thing that's important is to make sure, I'm going down to certainty here, is if any of the terms are missing, the contract may be void. That's really important. For example, if you agree to buy a car for $500, but there's no mention of what kind of car it is, the contract may be void because essential terms are missing. The same goes if you agree to sell a car for $500 and there's no mention of what kind of car it is. So you have to have like a description. Hey, this is what I'm selling you, right? Okay. So number one is the offer. Number two is acceptance. Both parties agree to say, yep, we're down. Let's go. Number three is the consideration. Consideration is what each party gives up. They give up. They say, I'm willing to pay you this price, and you're willing to do the work for that price. Okay? Intention, here's another one. Intention to create legal relation. Hey, I want to sell you 10 pounds of cocaine for whatever amount of money. That's not legally binding because it's not a legal contract. Okay, authority and capacity, basically, number one, they are able to enter into it. You know, they're over 18 or whatever the minimum age is. They're mentally competent, whatever property they're representing. Like, you don't want to go have a renter, important, sign a contract always. And by the way, as a side note, let me just show you this while I'm on it. It's a little itty bitty tip, call it a freebie, but this is Land Glide. Okay, a friend of mine, let's see, a friend of mine turned me on to Land Glide. Hold on. And that is well, darn it, you don't get to see it, but it's Land Glide. Get the app. It allows you at any given place, you can just drill in and you can see different people's, like, it goes into GIS information and it allows you to understand, hey, is this the owner of the house who's signing this? I highly recommend that because you don't want a renter by accident to like fill in your with their claim number for a renter's policy, because that could happen and you don't want to go down there. You don't want to go down that road. So authority to sign up. You don't want to work for a renter. You need to work for the owner, obviously. And then certainty. Let's see that. Oh yeah. It has to say, hey, look, the type of car you're getting is, or the type of car you're getting is going to be whatever. Okay, guys, that is it. We are going to get deeper and deeper into this. We're gonna cover everything. So that's it. If you find the content helpful, hit the like, hit the subscribe. It certainly helps with the algorithm, and we will see you on the next one.